That's
Mr. Lynn?
all I need.
all we ask
Right.
for.
Don't even have to be pretty. It could just,
Like last week.
that's
Like
right.
last week.
It doesn't matter.
That's good.
Doesn't matter how we get there. All right, so let me know when you're ready. Mr. Pastor Giles, you come, yep,
Yeah.
Thank you.
right over here.
I want to do balance.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you just shut the door so that if the phone rings? Okay. Let me know when.
Everybody ready?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right. Good afternoon. I want to thank members of the press who are here with us today. Today I have with me representation from our Board of Education, our executive leadership team, our parents, our partner, and we have a student who is here with us also today. So I want to thank everyone for coming together on such short notice, but I felt it was important for me to share with members of the public some information. I want to begin by saying that the students in Buffalo Public Schools are not out of control. They are not. Yesterday, we had an unfortunate situation which happened with some of our McKinley students who made poor decisions. They are not out of control. They are students who have been impacted by a global pandemic, as most all of us has, and as students have across our state and our country. And so I want to begin by sharing that. What happened yesterday afternoon, as I understand it, is that there were some students from McKinley High School who made poor decisions to not get on their special buses, which are lined up outside of the school every day, prepared to take students home. They decided that they would go off campus to the corner of Elmwood and Amherst. As I'm told, there were several hundred students, which makes me believe that there was some communication, probably using an electronic device, cell phone, to set that up. And while they were there were some physical altercations that happened. Every day, we have our peacekeepers who are outside of McKinley High School and other schools. They partner with us. They are credible messengers. They know our children. The children trust them. They know the community and understand the circumstances that the children come from, and they were there yesterday. And they were working hard to try to de-escalate the children. But when you have several hundred students in a place where, you know, there is not a whole lot of adult supervision to redirect them, you have what happened yesterday. And so we also partner with the Buffalo Police Department, speak regularly with Commissioner Gramalia, with our mayor, and with our school resource officers. They were there. They could see that the situation was escalating. And so 911 was called to bring more support there. When I heard about it, I was actually at a press conference at East High School, but I immediately left and I went to the site at Elmwood and Amherst. By the time I got there, which was probably minutes, it had already dispersed and everything was calm. There were no students there by the time I got there. So I want to share that, you know, we in Buffalo Public Schools want to work as proactively with our children and with our families as possible. In our schools, we have school student support teams, which include counselors, social workers, and school psychologists who are trained to help de-escalate any kind of conflicts that may arise. In a school building, probably every 5 to 10 steps, there's an adult that's in that building that students can go to if there are conflicts that are arising. In addition, we have nurses. You know, we have tons of very committed teachers that our children trust, teacher aides, teacher assistants. We have a whole litany of staff that are there to support children. We're a collective community. It's going to take all of us to support our children. We developed a community-inspired strategic plan where we talk about safety, security, and wellness. It's prioritized because every community that I went to, what I heard from every adult, whether it was a parent, grandparent, auntie, pastor, community member, is that they want their children safe. We want our children safe, and we've prioritized that by looking at the way that visitors enter our buildings, by increasing the wanding process to not just randomized wanding, but 100% wanding. We have also been working with an expert consultant on security measures. We are looking at hiring a Buffalo Public Schools chief of security. We've ordered state-of-the-art walkies. We have a mobile security unit that is enforced, and we have ordered some metal detectors that will be able to, as folks enter the school, it'll be able to, not in a hardened way, but to capture if there are any weapons or contraband that are coming onto campuses. So with all of that being said, the Board of Education passed an improved or an updated code of conduct this year. And I have our board president, Mr. Petrucci, who will share some information about that. And I just want to say that the code of conduct isn't just about what happens on school grounds. It's about what happens from door to door. So from the time children leave home in the morning to come to school, that means when they're on the buses, when they're walking to school, until the time they get home safely. That code of conduct encompasses all of that at our athletic events, any homecoming dances, any of that stuff. So I'll turn things over to Board President Petrucci.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the opportunity for letting us speak. You know, the board primarily does budgets, policies, and unfortunately on days like today, problems as well. I wish I was speaking to you about high academic achievement, but right now we're talking about what occurred yesterday. And I'm sure in the future we will speak about high academic achievement. What the board passed recently was an updated code of conduct policy. Now, what this was meant to do was to address some of the things we had heard in the past where students were being suspended for what both teachers, administrators, and families felt were more of minor incidents, such as wearing a hoodie. That seems to be the most popular one that people would bring to our attention. But it was meant to be progressive, and it was meant to resolve the underlying issues for many of our students. Now, this is not the only thing that the board did. The board also worked with Dr. Williams and her staff to allocate resources to put these things in place, whether it was the new and improved walkie-talkies, whether it's going to be the walk-through metal detectors so that we can get our children, families, and visitors in and out of our buildings. We are going to an updated swipe card system. But a lot of these things have been slightly delayed, simply not through our efforts, but through purchasing efforts. Though they have been ordered a while ago, we're still waiting for them to come in. So they will be coming in, and it's going to be an incremental process, and when they come in, they will be implemented as soon as we receive them. We also routinely work with all of our community partners. Many of them are here represented, but in addition, we want to make sure that that door-to-door pathway is as seamless as possible, from our school resource officers there in the building, our school security, our NFTA partners as well. And we've been trying to coordinate all those things so that one passes to the other, so when the child leaves their home and when they enter the school door and into their classroom, we have the continuity of both safety and security, and we want to make sure that all of our students are. And that's one of the things that the board is always highly, highly concerned with, is ensuring the safety of our education, because we're concerned about academic achievement when kids don't feel that they're in a safe environment. So we need to create that safe environment with all, whether it's the physical infrastructure or whether it's the policies and procedures that they need to get through to get into the building or to get home safely. So part of the reason why I wanted to be here today is because kind of explain what we're doing, but also let you know what we're doing to not only to address this specific situation, but security in general for the Buffalo Public Schools. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Board President. So we have a parent Congress group, which represents all of our 64,000 plus parents and caregivers in the district. And we have 3 represented groups here today. I'll turn things over to Ms. Jessica Bauer-Walker to introduce the folks who are here, but also, you know, Mrs. Bauer-Walker is really, she has been boots on the ground, working tirelessly with our parents, as has Mr. Spidell and as has Ms. Carlonda. And, you know, they do work with parents that we can't necessarily do. They're parents, and they speak to parents through that lens. And so the trauma-informed care that, you know, Jessica Bauer-Walker is able to speak to parents with that lens and the restorative practice lens is incredibly important. I'm going to turn things over to her to talk a little bit about the work that she's doing with parents, because it will take our parents to link arms with us to make sure that everything that we are prioritizing with safety happens the way that we need for it to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Bauer-Walker. I am the president of the Community Health Worker Parent Association. I am also a mother of 2 teenagers in Buffalo Public Schools. We have 6 parent groups who are recognized by the Buffalo Board of Education. In addition to the Community Health Worker Parent Association, we have Ed Spidell from the District Parent Coordinating Council and Carlonda Matters from Most Valuable Parents. So we're really here today just to lend support to the district and to our families. So we want to speak directly to parents and caregivers and students and let our families know if you need help, we're here to help. So Dr. Williams shares about some of the resources that are available in our buildings and in the district. We're here as parents too. We know it's not easy right now being a parent. It's not easy being a student and a teenager in particular. These are really challenging times. And so really the root cause of some of these behaviors that we're seeing in schools and in community is really about disconnection and the need for additional assistance and help. So we're here to help. We have a robust program where we train parents and students to be community health workers and to really work with our families to make sure that they have what they need. If you know, some of our students, we know they're acting up and we find out that there's not food in the house or there was a death in the family. And so we want to really assume that when we see some of these issues that we're dealing with, that it really is a cry for help. And what is going to help our families and our community be safer is relationship and connection. And so again, we're here to link arms and to let families know we're here to help you. Most Valuable Parents and Back to Basics are also in our school buildings and right outside our schools. And so we're here working with families and encouraging parents and caregivers. If you need help, reach out to the school. You'll see us out in community too. Ask for the parent engagement liaison in the school, or if there's somebody else that can help you too. We get it because we're parents, right? So that peer-to-peer connection can be really powerful. We know what it's like because we're going through it too. So we want to really use that trauma-informed approach instead of saying what's wrong with you, what happened to you. So we're really encouraging everybody to think through that and again, reach out if you need assistance. Know that we're here to help. We're using restorative practices as well, so hopefully when there's an issue that happens, if we can't prevent it from happening in the first place, we have Erie County Restorative Justice Coalition, who is another key community partner, working with the schools, engaging in restorative practices, which again is in the Code of Conduct. We also have a robust wellness policy in Buffalo Public Schools, and Dr. Williams is committed to getting school wellness teams back in all of our buildings again. So really this holistic framework, we need to start dealing with the root cause of these issues and really come together as families. And the last thing I'll say is it's really important for us to talk to students and talk to youth. So parents, ask your kids what's going on. It's hard for them to navigate some of these issues and how to, maintain face and credibility when issues arise, because they're complicated issues. They're multi-layered issues a lot of times in terms of navigating conflict. These are still children. They might be showing up as teenagers and, look a certain way, but they're still children and they're still works in progress. And they've been through a lot given the pandemic, given the massacre on May 14th. So as parents, let's reach out to our kids and ask them if they're okay, what's going on in school. build relationships with teachers and administrators, get involved however you can. Again, if you need help, reach out for the help. And students, we're here to listen to you too. So again, students, find a trusted adult. You know, I know sometimes it's difficult to do that, but reach out and look for those trusted mentors and helpers, because we want to listen to you. We want to uplift your voice, and we're committed to working with our young people to hear what they're experiencing and help them to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Walker. I'd like to next bring up Pastor Giles. He is really entrenched in the city of Buffalo community and probably in the Niagara Falls community also. But he does such good work with his team of peacekeepers, and they're all about keeping peace. And so they make sure that our children have safe passages while they're coming into school and when they leave our school campuses. Pastor Giles, just share a few words about your work.
Thank you, Superintendent Williams. We are peacemakers, not peacekeepers. You know, that's law enforcement. And so just to kind of distinguish that, but we do make peace, and just our presence alone to make peace. We actually are deeply involved in the care and concern with our children. We are parents and grandparents that are on the front line doing this. But what I've seen, and I want the community to be encouraged by what I've seen personally, and you know me from what I've been in this community 30 years doing this work, I've seen a level of leaning into cooperation and participation from the school board, the school administration, faculty members, law enforcement, security, and community-based organization that I have not seen before. So we have the formula, and we are working toward making sure that our children are safe. I do want to lift up something concerning the parents. However, most parents, and I've met a lot of them, I do family counseling in my program. Everybody comes to see me because I'm free, not because I'm good, but because I'm free. Most parents are caring, and they really want to do, and in some cases they're struggling. The things that the school provides, that has been pointed out, that's available to you. I've seen more program and services available, and people talking about what the schools are not doing. They are offering it, right? And I'm encouraging parents to come. You have some help. You can reach out to our organizations. We have several organizations that are part of Peacemakers. Call us. And I just went over with mothers to help a mother because her son would not clean up his room, and he was throwing things around. But when I got there, he began to cooperate. So call us, all right? And we will respond to that. This violence that's taking place, right? This happens, right? This kind of slipped through the crack. This is not the norm. Slipped through the cracks on us because normally we are out there. Students generally tell us everything that's about to go on. This one, right, kind of slipped up on us, but we have systems in place, working with security, working with school administration, working with community-based groups that are outside this place. Normally we're able to kind of put this at rest before it happens, and that's what we're out there ideally to prevent this from happening. And I see this collective effort on all of our groups, right? We're working toward that end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Our final speaker will be a young lady who was a seasoned principal, ran a very good school, and is now a part of our executive leadership team. I would like to ask Associate Superintendent Charlene Watson to come forward, because I know you're interested in hearing, so since yesterday, what has changed at McKinley. And so she oversees McKinley High School. Charlene.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Good afternoon, everyone. I met with Principal Khalil this morning, and the plan for today is to stagger the dismissal for grades 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. In addition, grade 9 and 10 will exit from one door, and after 3 or 5 minutes, grade 11 and 12 will be dismissed from a different door. This will allow security staff members, because all of the CTE teachers have committed to being outside at dismissal to help with student transition from the school to the buses. So this will help students move their way from the school directly onto the specials that are in front of the school. We are also having the supervisor from NFTA come out to check to make sure that we have enough buses in front of the school at dismissal. If there is a need for additional specials, they will be added by next week so that we can ensure that all students are able to get on a special and go directly home at dismissal time. In addition, a Connect Ed message went home to parents yesterday evening. It went home to parents today. Daily announcements were made this morning and throughout the day at all 3 lunches so that students are aware of the expectations from not only our Superintendent Williams, but from school administration and security. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our discussion with you. Do you have any questions for us?
Superintendent, would you have to be forced to have someone stand outside and make sure these students get on their proper NFTA buses? I mean, that was kind of what was the message of the consequences, that they would have their pass revoked if they did not follow that. How are you going to reprimand them and follow through on that?
So what we're hoping is that we don't have to reprimand, and that's why, we were proactive in sharing with parents last night as well as today what the expectations are. In addition, as Ms. Bauer-Walker stated, these are high schoolers and they have a voice, they may have questions about it, and so it's been shared with the students what we expect. We don't want any ahas at the end of the day. What we want is safety. We want all of our children to return home the same way that they came to school. So we're hoping that we don't have any students that don't comply, but in the event that children are children and that we get a couple that do, certainly taking their bus passes would be a last resort. We want to be able to have a conversation. We've got our peacemakers out there, and they will be, helping to redirect students who try to just bypass the buses, have a conversation with them, and try to redirect them to get on their buses. That's what we want to have happen.
Should students and parents fear going to Buffalo Public Schools? We had a situation yesterday where mace was being used and things got out of, I spoke with one of your peacemakers, things they said, they got out of hand. It was like chaos. Should students and parents fear going to Buffalo Public Schools?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have 32,000 children in our school district every day. And I would challenge you to look at any school district that's urban and there to not be some instances where there are children who are behaving like children when they don't have a whole lot of supervision. And so absolutely not. Our schools are safe. And, again, what happened yesterday, you've got a whole team of folks here who are acknowledging that students made some poor decisions. I mean, when you think about it, their frontal lobes are not even fully developed. And so sometimes they will, and sometimes as teenagers we may have also. But absolutely not. Parents should not feel afraid to send their children to school. What I hope you see from today is that holistically and collectively, this community, which comprises parents, partners, staff, is coming together to wrap our arms around our children so they don't need to feel afraid to send their children to school.
Based on a couple of things, the fact that so many videos have been circulating and the people who live in the neighborhood are just furious with the fights that have been going on after school with the students from McKinley. We know what we saw at Emerson, but at McKinley, should you have done this a little bit sooner, made these changes? And also, does this also point to poor leadership in that school building? I know there's the alternative school, you have people over there. Should you have more seasoned leadership at McKinley to deal with the student body where obviously it's not the way it once was?
So the principal that we have there is a seasoned leader. He has been an assistant principal for a number of years at one of our schools, and in that role has served as an acting principal at different points in times. He has a seasoned associate superintendent that is working extremely close with him. We have a coach, and it's no different for him than it would be for any new administrator in our district. We insulate, we wrap our arms around them, and we support them. We expect that Mr. Khalil, he's done some great things that are there, and sometimes when you have one blip that happens, people think that, because this is his first year as a principal, that this happened. But, it could have happened at any school, even with a seasoned principal. And so he is a good administrator. He is in his first year as a building principal. However, he is a seasoned building leader. He's been an assistant principal for a number of years. Now, you've mentioned that the community was not pleased with what happened. We're not pleased with what happened. And so, as a former building principal myself, one of the things that I know is that you are constantly refining procedures, as needed. And so today we have refined some of the dismissal procedures at that school because we found that that's what's needed there.
Dr. Williams, based on one of my interviews with one of the peacemakers yesterday, it seems like there was a disconnect between the police and Principal Khalil and how to handle the situation. We saw him arguing with police officers about how to get the situation under control, and then things obviously got out of hand with the pepper spray. What are you doing, what is the district doing to make sure that people are on the same page with how to handle situations like this? Because we could clearly see that they were not yesterday.
I think when you have a situation that is requiring immediate and intense support, that can happen. There can be differences on how that is supposed to happen. That was not my understanding, that they were on a different page. I spoke with Principal Khalil yesterday. He was very thankful that the Buffalo Police Department was there, that the peacemakers were there. He was very thankful today when I spoke to him. So I did not get that picture when I got on the scene. There were police officers that were still there. I had conversations with them. Not one of them shared with me that there was a difference of opinion. When I was at the press conference yesterday, I was there with Commissioner Grimalia. He and I were, speaking, and I didn't hear that there was that gap. However, there are meetings that happen between the Buffalo Police Department and the Buffalo Public Schools. We have a school security team, and, we want to make sure that that communication is solid. That's very, very important. So there are meetings that happen between those two groups.
But the principal himself was also among those who were pepper sprayed, correct?
I did not hear that, but it is possible. It is possible.
Is there
After
something
the
to,
former principal at the school was suspended, you went through a string of appointed interim, whatever you want to call them, principals over there before the current principal was appointed, basically the day of what happened last spring. Is some of this, I don't know, inconsistent management, or just because it isn't the same person in the front office every day over a period of time?
So he's been there now since last February, so there's been some consistency that's there. For instance, for our incoming ninth graders, and that's probably the largest group of students that we have, this is the only high school principal that they have known, but we're still very, very early into the school year. We're just early into October, and so I wouldn't say that, it's been inconsistent. He was appointed last February as the interim, and then he was successful in becoming the permanent principal at McKinley High School.
Dr. Williams, I've seen several videos, not just from yesterday, of fights at McKinley specifically.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't feel like a blip. Is there something to be said about the culture at McKinley?
Mm-hmm.
So media, I want to be clear on this. We're talking about a group of students, a very small group that have mastered the sense of understanding what technology is. Like they're messaging each other, they're having these small chats. This is why we ask the parents, pay attention to what your child or what chat group that they're involved in, because they're sending out signals and messaging to each other. That's a very complex thing to examine and then get in the way of unless you have information informing you of that. We can't appoint the administration, and I'm standing up for the administration now because I've been working with them and I see the work that has been done toward this. These things are going to happen. We are meeting with law enforcement. We are meeting with security. We're all kind of wrapping our arms, saying, what do we need to do better? So we're all having that conversation with the administration. But if you spin this like we're handicapped and you spin this like we're not doing what it is that we're supposed to do, that's what's sending a panic to the community. We want the community to know and be confident that we are exercising every effort and every plan to make sure our children are safe, because we care about them. And I want that to be clear. We care about them, and everybody that's on this panel now care about the welfare and well-being of our children. Some of them, through their angst and through their frustration and through their anger from other things, are bringing that into this space, and then they're antagonizing other students because. So that's a trigger. That's hard to wrap our arms around them. Those of you that are familiar with mental health and trauma, you know it's hard to wrap your arms. It's hard to anticipate that. So do we need to have some super person to kind of follow them on social media on every page? Yes, we need that. Yeah, but it's hard to have that, right? So we have programs that talk to the youth, and they're talking to me, and they're telling me, Pastor, this is what's happening, right? Here's this chat, here's that chat, here, follow this chat, follow this chat. And we are trying to get ahead of this. So I need that to go out as well.
The problem is, though, we all have videos of fights that happened before yesterday. I had several teachers yesterday tell me the peacemakers are in the wrong. They were in the wrong yesterday by the comments they made about how this was handled. They supported the police. So my question about there being a disconnect between BPS staff and police and the peacemakers wasn't really answered, because teachers are telling me this wasn't handled, no one's on the same page.
Yeah, so that's from where they were standing, but what I'm saying is we have put forth efforts to be on the same page. Yesterday, you haven't seen yesterday that what happened in front of McKinley. Those little fights that you're seeing where they're gathering up, and actually, let me tell you what they're doing. We've shut it down in this area, and they're getting together to talk about, well, where it is they can meet up. That's hard to track. I want you to understand that. That's very difficult to track, right? So they're not fighting in the same place. Why? Because we shut it down. And then why we shut it down? Because they know us and they know we know them. We're going to be at their parents' house, and we've been there at parents' house and said, this is what your child is doing. I want you to know that, all right? And so,
Superintendent, the police said they arrested a 16-year-old McKinley student. Have you identified others that have been involved? Are there other charges, anything like that that's going to happen ahead of this?
What I can tell you is that today there was time spent investigating and researching who all were directly involved in this. And the information from our statement that was released informed the community at large that those folks that were directly involved in any physical altercation, you know, we follow our code of conduct, but there were also children that were there that probably were traumatized by what they saw. And so we also want to offer support to those students because, you know, as far back as when I was in school, when there's a fight, kids congregate and they watch. And, you know, as the pastor shared, it's a very few students that actually were involved in the physical altercation. Most were spectators. Most were spectators. And for those students, we certainly have, you know, supportive services. But more than just that, it's about if you see something, say something. That's what we're promoting. If you hear something, say something so that we can intervene in a restorative way and get it resolved.
Is there a definitive timeline in terms of just kind of leading up to how this all happened and everything kind of after that as well? Or is that
We're still working on that. As the pastor said, it's very complex. It's very complex.
Is there anything, and Pastor Giles probably knows better than a lot of people, anything similar about the kids that were involved? Different, are they in the same class? They all from the same neighborhood, you know, or is it just teenage students behaving like teenage students?
they're teenage students behaving like some teenage students. All right, John? And then just some, but it's just very.
We got these microphones for you.
So listen, our children, and I want to talk about urban children for a moment so that we understand. As was pointed out by Becky? Jessica. You know, we're coming off this pandemic. You know, we're still reeling from that. We have children that are still reeling from that. And because of that, it has created a not sure and not certain what to meet inside schools. We're having that friction, that tension, and that angst, that built up angst that they didn't have a chance to participate in all their sporting events over the last 2 years. So you got all of that going on. And then you got individuals that are so angry and they're frustrated about something else, but they're taking it out on each other. All right, so that's going on, and we're trying to wrap our arms around that, and we're reaching out to them and mentoring them. Listen, and if we were not doing this, and if this body was not doing what it was, yeah, maybe the city of Buffalo would be turned upside down. I'm telling you, right? So efforts are being made. You're going to have those pockets, and quite frankly, until the economic circumstances change for urban communities, you're probably going to have this across the country. This kind of stuff happening.
Dr. Williams, I've read your security in the strategic plan. What does this look like? In a perfect world, you've outlined a lot of points here. How do we know when we've achieved this?
Well, it's pretty much outlined right in there. You know, we've got benchmarks specifically that we're looking for. We want, you know, all of our logistics on campuses working. We want doors that lock. We want, you know, cameras that are working. We want all of our security and administrative staff to have walkie-talkies. We want to have everybody that enters the school know and understand what that looks like. We want to have training for our school clerks so that they are welcoming folks into school in a certain way. We want to have training for all of our staff in restorative practices and trauma-informed care so that they understand when children have been traumatized, the layers and how it impacts them when you've experienced loss and grief and fear and anger, and it goes on, hunger and homelessness and, you know, all of the things that children should never experience. You know, we want to make sure that we have everybody in the school trained, from the school engineer all the way through to the principal, so that, you know, it's seamless and the supports are there. But we'll know when we have 0 suspensions. There's no need to suspend. When children are going to the trusted adults that are in their schools and in their communities, when our academic achievement, you know, has increased to a level where all of our 3rd graders are reading, then we're going to know. And that's the goal. And I'm serious about reaching that goal.
So we have one more question.
Yeah, if I could just make a quick comment too, because, you know, it seems to be, and while you're here, it seems to be that this is all happening at McKinley. And I've seen the videos as well as have many of my fellow board members. But what we're seeing, and I've seen the videos, that there seems to be this progression. So the first video was in the hallway, if memory serves. The second video is outside, is in front of McKinley. This last video is about 3 blocks away. So what we're seeing is this progression of where these occurrences are happening. So it's not necessarily. The other thing I know that we were looking into as a district is whether or not this is just all McKinley students or if they're a group of students from a variety of schools that just decide to congregate on that corner. We appreciate the neighbors' concerns. We're working to make sure, but that's one of the reasons why we've been working with the NFTA as well, is to make sure, how does this look? Is this something that we can prevent from happening through another means or methods? In addition to the additional security protocols and procedures appointed at McKinley, but there's something that might not address if they're not getting on the specials, if they're just going to 3 blocks over, and the neighbors that are driving home have to see this as well, which is not what we want for anyone. We don't want it for our students, we don't want it for our community partners, we don't want it for our neighbors.
How long will these staggered dismissal things like that be in place at McKinley?
Rest of the school year.
Whole school year?
And moving forward.
And is this gonna happen at other schools as well if similar incidents happen? Is there?
If there's a need to refine dismissal procedures, you know, every school is a little different. You know, every school size is different. Every school culture is a little different. And so school administrators are tasked with doing what they feel is best for their schools, but they all have an associate superintendent that is over their school, that is an experienced leader that's able to come in and support if it's not working the way that it should. So for now, it is McKinley, but if we determine that there's a need to modify any other dismissal procedures, the principal would certainly be able to do that.
Do you have any guidance on what would constitute that at a school where, not a McKinley, excuse me, but another school? Is it 3 fights? Is it 3 big fights? Is it
Oh,
one?
that's difficult to answer, yeah. That's very difficult to answer. We just want all of our children safe. We want, you know, we work with the NFTA. We have buses outside that are specials. We want our children to get on those buses and to behave and go home and be safe. So I can't say if it's, you know, one bad fight or if it takes 10 you know, I can't really say. But, you know, what I can say again is that, you know, we have 60 schools and we have 32,000 children. And so the fact that, you know, on any given day, most all of our children do the right thing. They do the right thing. And so now we just got to work with that small group of students that are making poor decisions. And I think what you've seen today is that, and this is just a small composite of folks that are working with us. I'm out in the community. And, I hear from grandparents, parents, pastors, that they want Buffalo Public Schools to be successful. And they're willing to link arms with us and to help us to make sure that we're looking for the root causes and to unpack, any trauma that students have experienced and to support the work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Could you just, say and spell your name into the microphone and your title? That would be helpful. I'm sorry, just spell your name and title. Thank you.
Charlene, Charlene Watson, Watson, Associate Superintendent of School Leadership.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.